round 9. We'll get straight into it because we've got a sprint race today. We're at Bahrain. I'm QVR Killer, and I'm with my good friend, Mr. Ariel J. Cole. Going into this sprint race this evening, Ariel Felipe leads the championship. He has a 19-point lead. He has 99 points to his name. 80 for Evans Joshua. Larkin's in 3rd with 72. Luke is in 4th with 65. Then Koskapin with 64. Little gap to Tope with 52. And then last week's race winner, dominant race winner, Lifeback with 49 points. RJ has 48. He was second last week as well, actually. Resify with 46. A man who we've mentioned, and I'm sure we'll touch on today, is overpromised and underdelivered so far this season. And Ariel Tebrum, he completes the top 10 with 42. But it is a sprint, J. Cole, and is there anything particular you're expecting this? We've got a grid of, I think, 17 today. We've got a lot of quick names in there. We've got T-Brum's back this week. We've got Lifebout there, and obviously our title contenders as well. Who are you feeling this week?
It's a good question. I'm going to probably go with our championship leader. I've heard that he has been practicing non-stop for it. But I don't also want to rule out Mr. Benjesk, Mr. QVR Koskapin. I know that it's a completely different dynamic to what we had last week in terms of, Canada. A lot of people normally say that it is a wheel-based track, whereas Bahrain, I would say, is, in previous F1 games anyway, it was more tailored to on a pad. And I know our championship leader is on a pad as well as Koskapin, and I'm also going to throw Larkin in there as well. So those three are the ones I'm expecting to be up towards the top for this evening. But I mean, anybody can make a sort of surprise. I think that VER switchback is a new driver, if I'm not mistaken.
He is. Let's go on board with our championship leader. You mentioned he'd put a lot of practice in, but you only need... Oh, God, apologies for the camera angle. I changed it for D1. I forgot to change it back. You need only ask QVR Nathan that you can over-practice for races, is D1 evidence. That looked nice from Felipe around turns 1 and 2. He's on auto gears, of course, so his shifts might look a little bit abnormal to some of you. Into turn 4, 3rd gear, that's nice apex, picks up the throttle nice and early, not using all the track on the exit. Lifebout's in P2, the top 3 are zigzagging about right now. He zigzag down the hill, 67, go to the extreme left of the track, open up turn 8 as much as you can, pick up the throttle nice and early, short shift into 4th with your running manual there, go to the right hand side. Ivo's retired, he's now in CPI, he's changed teams since last week. And a little bit on the curb for Felipe there, wasn't ideal. But the auto gears can't quite do the short shift that you need. Again, that's one where we're going to go straight into 4, pick up the power nice and early, straight in the car as much as you can. Use all the track on the outside of turn 11, flip the car in, just kiss that inside curb as he does beautifully, and then climb the hill. Turn 12 isn't as challenging as it has been in the past with the high-speed downforce on these cars, and 13 arrives at you very quickly, easy to understeer through there, and easier still to run wide in the validate. Felipe keeps it nicely in bounds, and he's in P2 just behind Lifebout, who might be making a very late resurgent title charge being approached halfway in the season. A little wide of the apex there for Felipe, and it could have lost him a couple of places in the process, and I think it has. And in fact, Tope and T-Brum on the line nick pole position. Lifebout drops down to 4th, possibly a bit of lag there. Koskapin is 5th, and then the 2 McLarens in 6th and 7th, and Miami once again showing up Larkin a little bit, as he has done the past couple of races. The two are both attended up to a point, and that is a very interesting looking first few rows, Jack.
Yeah, it certainly is. Tope and T-Brum on pole. I think Tope's first pole position so far this season, if I'm not mistaken. Nolan, I thought was going to be up there with, or at least be on pole, but P3 still not necessarily a bad start. Obviously in the second round with last week's race winner of Lifebout. Koskapin and Miami in 5th and 6th, Larkin in 7th, RJ's in 8th, Sweetross in 9th, Rex in 10th, Sen in 11th, Scream in 12th, Evans in 13th, Switchback in 14th, as I said, on his debut, Luke in 15th, Marcio in 16th, and then Chris and Ivo not putting a time on the board, and Marcio interestingly invalidating on his lap as well. So any sort of surprises that you'd say, Jake, that are a little bit lower down than what you expect? Because one that sticks out to me straight away is the teammate of our championship leader, good old Luco 5HD, being down there in, I think it was P14. Okay, I guess he's. I'm not sure why Jake's not here, but
apologies.
I was
just having a drink, is all, and then I had to quickly lock my door. It ruins the magic when you say these kind of things, doesn't it, of the commentary box. Evans Joshua, I think you mentioned Switchback, Lowdown, and you mentioned Luke as well. I think those three, 13, 14, 15, and Chris as well, didn't set a lap 17. Chris has sort of been on the fringes of the top 10 a few times this season. He's looking like he's growing in confidence each race. I'm hoping for a bit more from him. But I think we've got quite an even spread of pace from sort of 5th, 6th down to the back of the field. I don't think we've got enough people out of position. I don't think we're going to see the snaky train that we saw in D1, where the order it was on the grid was as it finished. I think we're in a situation where we're going to see a lot of change around in terms of the order to come. And the first thing I'm noticing is that IRT Taupe is on a set of medium tyres. In fact, we're in the sprint, aren't we? I forgot we're in a sprint. Yes. Oh, but we've got Chris and Luke on the softs. That's what we should focus on. Luke on the softs, Chris on the softs. That's a ballsy call, and one I don't think will necessarily carry them through to the checkered flag in haste, but we shall see. If you've never followed League of Europe before, sprint races, points are available for the top 10 for first, through to 1 down to 10th increments of a single point. It is 10 laps, no pit stops are obligatory. The order sets the grid for the Grand Prix, as is the case in real life Formula 1. Why do you think Luke and Chris have gone for softs? Do you think that's a viable tyre? We didn't see anyone use it in D1. Do you think it's a viable situation here?
I think the only thing that they may be hoping is that there's a safety car. If there is, then at least they can chuck on a fresh set of softs and just go from it there. But I don't know why they have gone on a set of softs, to be honest with you. I think that's probably without a doubt the wrong call. Those softs will only probably be able to get at maximum 8 laps before they're in puncture territory, and then risk a puncture. I suppose they can try and take them all the whole 10 laps, but it's going to be very, very tight. I think Taupe and T-Brum looking like they're in a little bit of a class of their own, but like I say, don't forget about Koskap and don't forget about Larkin. Those two are definitely ones we need to watch out for, starting in 5th and 7th, right behind each other, as well as starting right behind our championship leaders. So I think it's going to be a close one.
I think it's going to be a very close one. I'm absolutely fascinated how this one's going to go. Switchback misses his grid spot, as we've just got Ivo coming into position now, and then we're going to have, for the first of 2 times today, we're going to have 5 lights on ahead of the drivers. We've not got a good camera angle at all, but we've got 5 lights on, and for the first time tonight we are underway. It looked like T-Brum got a better start than Taupe and Felipe got a better start than all of them. Look at Lifebout surging up the inside there. He's straight into P2. He's possibly into the lead. We can't see anything into turn 1. Taupe and Felipe's through into the lead. He squeezes out Lifebout. Taupe's down to P3. And Larkin, look at that, up into 4th place, neck and neck with T-Brum. Through the kink of turn 3 on the run towards 4 as they go up the hill. Lifebout's trying to go around the outside of Felipe. Taupe slots in P3. T-Brum still looking around the outside of Larkin there. Koskappen's slipped down to 6th. He's hounding the back of T-Brum. Sen has made a big jump up. He's ahead of Miami, who gets a little out of shape through turn 6 and 7. Is anyone going to have a cheeky turn 8 Sen? Larkin's having a look up the inside of Taupe, and he gets the traction on the exit as well. It's going to be neck and neck towards turns 9 and 10, where the track pinches up down the hill. And Larkin's going to have to give that one up to Taupe. But that was a frantic first few corners there. They all zigzagged and concertinaed their way through. But the upshot is Lifebout lead and Felipe second, and big gain for Larkin, and Evans Joshua's up a few places as well.
Yeah, RJ has not had a very good start either. Started down, if I'm not mistaken, in P8, and he's now down into 16th position. So, yeah, the Red Bull was really not having a good start here on this first lap. Yeah, he started in P8 and now down into 16th position. But yeah, Lifebout, what a start he has had. Nolan as well, both of those guys getting straight up onto the front of the grid as well. Switchback going a little bit wide, coming out the hill as well. And let's have a look and see if RJ's going to be able to get this move done down in towards the final corner. Still holding it down the inside. It's a little bit audacious, and I think has also a little bit of a wobble because of it. And now Chris is going to slip past him on those set of soft tyres down up into P16 as Larkin and Taupe both side by side now going down in towards turn number 1. Larkin's got the inside, Taupe's going to have the outside. A little bit of wheel bang in between the pair of them. Taupe will have the inside for turn 2, but Larkin getting the traction on the exit of turn number 1 and gets past Taupe, as well as T-Brum now also trying to go for it down in towards turn number 4. Taupe gives him a little bit of a squeeze down in towards turn 4, but I think T-Brum's going to be able to get this move done. Taupe holds it around the outside, though they're both still side by by side, getting a little bit of wheel banging. Pope will have the outside, but T-Brum just moves. Oh, make sure he gets that past the German in the Williams, and now up into P4. Tope, unfortunately, starting from pole, he's now down into 5th as Miami getting the move done on Sen. Both still side by side of each other as well. Sen going to try and hold it down the inside in towards turn number 10. Aston Martin trying to hold it in on that McLaren. The McLaren's still going to have the outside. They're both doing very well with side by side racing with each other here, Jake. Miami, I think, had to give up that position in the end, now down into 8th position. But wow, there's a lot of action going on lap number 2 of this sprint.
Breathless action indeed. Miami and Sen and Tope and T-Brum are our big battles right now on the track, but everyone is holding in that DRS pattern. Miami almost touching the back of Sen. From the camera we use, I'm going to avoid using that ghastly T-cam as much as I possibly can. Here comes Miami down towards the last corner, second last corner, technically turn 14. Is he going to have a late Sen? No, he's not. Sen goes very late on the brakes and almost ploughs into the back of Koskappen in the process. We've now got DRS in effect. It will be DRS a lap early when we get on to F1 23 later this year, but for now they've got to wait 2 laps, and Koskappen is shaping up to make a move on Tope. Tope was our pole sitter, of course. He slipped down to 5th already, lost place to Larkin, then to T-Brum, and now he's looking fairly vulnerable to Koskappen. I wonder if he's picked up a nick of damage there, because his race pace not really matching his qualifying pace and what he's showing so far. I don't think DRS is going to do too much this lap. Everyone is being neutralised a little bit by the DRS that's in play ahead of them, but Koskappen certainly looks like the one who's in the an aggressive position right now behind the back of Tope, but also don't oh, and off the track go in the background goes Rex at turn 7. He's going to plummet down to the back of the field. But I was just about to mention, Jack, look at Felipe, 4 tenths behind Lifebout, and he might be shaping up for a move on the start straight next time round.
Not only that though, Larkin's also followed suit. The top 3 have already gapped T-Brum. I wonder, you were saying about Tope potentially having a whisker of damage. I reckon T-Brum could potentially have damage, because he, that qualifying that he had, well, it was a very good result putting himself into P2, but now dropped off 1.2 seconds behind the top 3. I reckon the Relentless driver could potentially have a nick of damage as well, maybe just like a very light yellow front wing somewhere. But yeah, I mean, he's still doing decently in P4. He's just got to hold off a charging Tope. Of course, Tope was the one that put it on pole, and T-Brum put it in second, and they're both now sitting in 4th and 5th respectively with each other. And Nolan, actually I'm going to go to him, because he's going for the move on Lifeboat now for the lead of this race. Larkin dropped off ever so slightly, but now Nolan up into the lead of the race in the sprint. I think I had a little bit of a tap there from Lifeboat, and those auto gears are not helping him out whatsoever, as Larkin has a bit of a better traction in comparison to Lifeboat. Lifeboat now having to use a bit of ERS just to try and stay out the head of the McLaren, as there is a spinner. That is Miami now out of turn number 2, unfortunately for the other McLaren, qualifying up ahead of his teammate. His teammate is now fighting for the win of the sprint race. Unfortunately, Miami now down into P17. I don't know if he picked up any sort of damage, but one thing I'm actually quite intrigued on, Jake, is the 2 soft runners, both Luke and Chris, are sitting in 8th and 11th at the moment. I'm intrigued on how long these softs can keep up, because they're still running quite well.
I feel like they're going to suffer within a lap or 2 at most. Oh, and Miami turns round, switch back there at turn 8, gets very out of shape, and Sweeros is going to sweep round the outside. Thank you very much, he says, and he takes P16, but Miami's going to fight this back into turn 10. He clobbers the curb, will be a little bit compromised. It's going to be a drag race towards turn 11. Sweeros with a bit of a wobble on there. Miami's just going to hold on. He's got the DRS as well, but Sweeros maybe running some lower wings. He's going to come around the outside of turn 11, and I think it is still neck and neck as we come breathlessly towards turn 12, and Sweeros is on the inside. This could end in absolute tears. It's only for P16, but it's fantastic racing between them. Miami just gets tagged a little, goes off track. Sweeros is going to pull out for the inside line, and they bump wheels again and again. Sweeros is derating away. Fast lap for Luke, and he plays DRS chick in there, lets Miami go to nab the DRS, but he's lost a lot of time on the exit. Let's look back to the front of the field. Lifebout still behind Felipe, Larkin in there as well. T-Brum and Tope and Koskappen and Sen have all pulled their way into a DRS train now. That 1.2 second gap between T-Brum and Larkin has been or is evaporated completely. Luke's now the one bringing the split in the field, and if those tyres don't stay with him, he's going to be really struggling in the second half of this race. He's already derating away, and he's a second off Sen. So you mentioned when's Luke's tyres going to go. I think this could be the moment. Look at Lifebout though, 2 tenths per second behind Felipe as we come towards turn 10, and we've got a DRS zone immediately thereafter. Nice short shift, we've got a yellow flag, that is for somebody. I've not got the track map up because it's ugly. It's switched back up at turn 5, but Lifebout, I wonder if Lifebout is running higher wings here, because he didn't gain really anything on Felipe on that straight, and we saw Felipe breeze past very early towards turn 1 when he made that move, but it's very finely poisoned. We're only just now creeping towards halfway through.
Yeah, no, it certainly is, and yeah, there's a lot of fantics going on towards the back end of the field. Miami's now managed to gap Sweet Ross by that 1.2 seconds now. T-Bron once again really struggling to keep within DRS of the top 3, and has actually burnt all of his ERS in the process of that. Tope is now seeing that red flashing light on the back of the Mercedes and could potentially look to go for a move. Maybe not down into turn number 1, but maybe down into turn 4. We might see the German opt to go for a move as T-Bron goes quite deep in towards turn 1. That's been a spinner at the back, and that is CPI Ivo out of the final corner, and that's brought out the full safety car. Very interesting. So I don't understand why that's brought out the full safety car, but Ivo now moving his way into the pits. I'm guessing he has got no front wing, which is why it's brought that out, but it means that Nolan is still going to remain in the lead of this race. And as I said, a safety car coming out for the 2 soft runners is perfect for them. They could now chuck on a fresh set of softs. Unfortunately for them though, it means they're going to lose a handful of positions. It could potentially even be better for them to stay out. I suppose those softs won't really degrade as much as they would have been if they were racing at full race speed. They'll still degrade, but not as much. So maybe the safety car could have actually played into their hands, and they could potentially stay out on these softs as long as, well, until the end of this race now, Jay.
Oh, I think so. I think that's the only option you've got. Although, the thing with Chris is, if you're in Chris's situation here, I'd say everyone behind him will probably be looking to come into the pits for softs, so Chris will think, well, I may as well make another pit stop as well. So I think we're looking at a situation where Chris downwards are going to come into the pits, and the top 10 will stay on. That's my prediction. We'll see how wrong it is, probably drastically very soon. We had the situation in D1, didn't we? I think if you feel like you can gain by making the pit stop, you may as well. Obviously, not expecting our front runners to come in, Lifebout and Larkin dummying it for whatever reason. I don't know, no one was buying that dummy, whatever. So Chris is in, Evans is in. I got it right, Jack. I did a correct thing. Miami in as well. Sweet Ross is going to follow suit. I got it spot on. Chris down into the pits. It was a no-brainer for those, but I'm impressed that no one decided to break my prophecy and make a cheeky stay out to get track position. But that's going to be interesting though. Marcio and Scream, well, Marcio was disqualified in qualifying. Scream has been hit and miss with pace this season. Luke's going to be on very old tyres. I think there's a good 3 or 4 places at least lurking for Chris Evans et al. Here. In the 3 laps of racing we're going to get, I presume we'll get 3. If Ivo doesn't get a shift on, though, it could be only 2, in which case Felipe will be thanking his lucky stars because he won't have to negotiate any DRS for Lifebout behind him. And it's also, this is the last thing I'll say because I have been speaking for a long time, I did notice Lifebout was stockpiling ERS. Before the safety car was deployed, Felipe was down about 20%. Lifebout had 62%. He was getting ready to make his move, and he was saving his move for the end of the race. That's but paid to that because Felipe is now on 80% and will be able to burn like crazy on any restart. Are we going to get a restart this lap, or is it going to force us to wait for the last 2 laps? Hopefully it's this lap.
I think it'll force us to wait for the last 2 laps. Yeah, no, it definitely will. I think we've got to wait for the other 3, to catch up. I mean, to be fair, even if they catch up now, then there is still a chance the safety car could sort of pull in very late, but at the same time I don't think it will do. So yeah, I think this is going to be quite an interesting one. So no, like you were saying, yeah, Nolan's now basically been handed his ERS back essentially, and it's now an even playing field between Lifebout, between Larkin, T-Bron. Everyone's now got their ERS back. T-Bron as well. He was only on 5% ERS and was trying to keep up with the top 3, so this has also been a bit of a blessing for himself because now he's got all of his ERS back and can now attempt to try and attack the rest of the top 3 as well. But yeah, Chris, Evans, RJ, ones we for sure need to keep our eye out for. Luke as well. I'm kind of surprised he didn't also come in, but at the same time I can understand why he didn't, just so at least he can try and keep those positions and, as I say, try and take those softs to the end, so at least he can try and stay within that top 10 and have a better race, or full race shall I say, and at least a decent set of points for the sprint. You know, I think there's 3 points that he ended up getting for the sprint race, so despite starting in about 16th, that's still not a bad feat.
Where are camera settings? Am I being blind, or can I not see them? I need to change these camera settings. They're absolutely abysmal. I can't change camera settings while in spectator mode. Thank you, Codemasters.
No.
Much appreciated. Oh, well, apologies everyone watching. We'll have to suffer the awful T-cam for the duration. But when do you think Nolan's going to go here? I think the smart thing is to go into the last corner, particularly when you're an ABS runner. I don't know, is Nolan an ABS, or is he no ABS? I always forget that.
He's an ABS runner.
ABS and auto gears. The kind of D2, that sounds like D2 champion to me, to be honest. When was the last time D2 had a non-ABS champion? Was it
Rick,
Nooth?
probably.
Rick didn't win the championship last year, I'll have you know.
Oh, so it probably was Nooth then. No, he did win the championship, but like not obviously last season. That was of course yourself that won that, but Rick has won the championship. Obviously, he didn't run any ABS with that. I believe it. I think you're right. I think it was Nooth then. That was the last one, or maybe Timon. Timon started running no ABS afterwards. So yeah, I think you're right. I think Nooth is the one that hasn't. But I mean, under the safety car restart, Nolan, he's not relatively going slow. He's almost not keeping up with the safety car, but he's not going as slow as what I was expecting him to go. Is he going to go out of this final corner? No, he's in fact going to play it a little bit later. He's going to wait for Lifebout to slow down, and as soon as Lifebout slows down, Nolan's then going to go, which will be right about now, and he's calculated that to perfection. He's managed to get that little jump on Lifebout. Koskapper now going to go down the inside of Tope just after the line, as well as Chris on that screen. So Chris already making up a position on those set of soft tyres. Koskapper going down the inside of T-Brum having to go around the outside. Lifebout having a little bit of contact with Nolan as well. Larkin and Lifebout both side by side. Koskapper now stuck behind the pair of them as well, and he's managing to just he's just basically one-drafting Larkin as well. T-Brum, Luke, Sen all going around. Larkin down the inside towards turn number 4 on Lifebout, and look at that already. Nolan 1.5 seconds up ahead of Lifebout. I think already Nolan has won this race, but this battle for second so tight, and Chris also up into 7th already. Jay,
absolute shambles in the backfield. RJ's up into P9. He's made a move on Evans, and Miami dicing away with Evans as well into turn 8. It's not been a good happy restart for Evans Joshua, but he's going to fight this one round the outside into turn 10. Switchback's had another moment on the exit of 9, and Miami is through to 10. So our soft runners making a little bit of progress, so let's get those stops back on. Actually, Chris up into P7. Keep an eye on him. He's got Marcio just ahead. He's made good moves on this restart. Lifebout has lost another 2 tenths to Felipe since the carnage that ensued at turns 1, 2 and 3. It looked like Koskappen, who we saw on stream, hit the back of Larkin, or very nearly did, and there was just a pincer movement where everyone sort of got magnetised together. The contact model in this game, the wheels can almost seem to stick together or suck themselves together at points. Miami makes another move on RJ, and in fact we've got Evans Joshua's plummeting down the field. He spun at the last corner. I know what that feels like, and he's down into 16th place. Meanwhile, we're on to the last lap of this race. It's been breathless apart from that safety car interlude, and Chris has made another move there. He's past Marcio. He's up into P6 on the soft tyres. That'll be 6th, of course, to start the race on. And Scream is now going to have a look at Marcio as well on the softs. The soft runners making good progress into turn 4. There goes Scream. Sorry, Scream's on the mediums, not on the soft, but Miami is lurking behind them, and he'll be hoping he can find another place or two. He started this race in 7th place. He's almost clawed his way back there after his various misadventures that we've seen. Lifebout has pulled himself back within a second of Felipe, but he's used all of his ERS to do it, and he's now red light blinking away as they come through turn 10 for the 10th and final time in this sprint race. And Jack, I'm going to ask you, what have you made? Who have you been your standouts so far today? I think you've got to credit Felipe and Lifebout for the cool head, particularly Lifebout on that restart in keeping P2. But where's your praise going?
definitely Chris up into 6th position. I mean, he's still got a last-ditch effort in the final corner on Tope, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to get any sort of move done unless Tope makes a mistake out of turn number 13, but he doesn't in the end. So I think, yeah, Chris, I think P6, from where he started, is a very good feat in Miami. Now trying to go for the move on Marcio down in towards the final corner. He's burning that ERS as much as possibly can. Down the inside, he goes into the final corner. A little bit of curve he takes. Nolan comes across the line to take the win in the sprint race. Marcio ends up dropping down another couple more positions as well. Marcio now down into 10th, still picks up the final point for the sprint race, but what an ending that was, Jake. Nolan taking the win, Lifeboat in 2nd and Larkin in 3rd. Top 3, of course, for the sprint race, and starting in 1st, 2nd and 3rd respectively, and of course Nolan will be our pole sitter as well. And then Koskappen in 4th, Tope in 5th, and Chris, as I say, from the back of the grid up into 6th in a 10-lap race is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, but I'll tell you what did not work out, I think, in hindsight. Luke staying out on those soft tyres. If he'd pitted, he would have been at the front of all those soft runs. He'd been ahead of Chris. Think where Luke could have been in this race if he had made a pit stop for another set of softs. But staying out did not go well for him. He finished 14th, did the honorary Colombian. Felipe wins from Lifebout in 2nd. Larkin was 3rd. Neither of our front row finishing in the top 4. Koskappen was 4th, Pulsar Tope was 5th, and then Chris 6th, as you mentioned, up 11 places. Then Scream, Miami, RJ, Marcio, Rex, Ivo, Sen, Luke, in the end gained 1 place for his troubles. T-Brum down in 15th place after starting in P2, Switchback 16th, Sweeross 17th, and Evans Joshua did have a good start, but he ended up down in 18th place after that spin at turn 8. And I'd say the sprint there has succeeded in its goal, Jack. It's shaken up the grid from what we had at the end of one shot, and it is Ariel Felipe, championship leader, who took home the maximum haul of 10 points, and now he's got the best possible situation for converting into a maximum of 35 points.
Yeah, no, he certainly has. So we'll see if he's able to do that. And we know what his pace is like around here as well. Lifeboat, as I say, was very good, as well as Larkin. All 3 of those guys, very close contenders of each other. And I think it's been a story since not just this season, but last season of Nolan versus Larkin with each other. So as they sort of carried on towards this season, I mean, Larkin's sitting 3rd in the championship, just 8 points behind Evans, which I think he's now actually going to jump up ahead of him, or they'll be tied on points, shall I say, actually, as Evans obviously didn't pick up any points and Larkin picked up 8 in the sprint, so they'll both be tied on points. Nolan has just gotten away even more in terms of points as well. He's now going to be, 29 points up ahead of both Evans and Larkin. So what Larkin really needs to hope is that Nolan has a bit of a shambolic race and Larkin to win, and then he'll be straight back. Well, be only 4 points behind Nolan. But at this point, Nolan, how he's driving, even last week in Canada, he was picking his battles, which I've never seen him do that before. So to say that he started doing that in Canada, I know it's not exactly his best track, and he played that very well in Canada. He's proving to be like a definitive championship contender for this season, and well, a 29 point gap in going into this feature race. I think that kind of shows it, Jay. I think Nolan, he's definitely a favourite to win this championship now, if I'm honest with you.
I can't disagree. He said he's thinking about the championship, and I say he was very circumspect at Canada, as you say, picking his battles. But now I think he needs to take this win. If he takes this win, it will be a mighty leap, with Evans probably not going to come in for a great result, and Larkin behind him as well. It turns out I was right, Jack. I was just right 10 laps too early. Look at Tope on the medium tyres. That's an interesting decision. The only one. I did call it in the sprint, didn't I, when I said Tope was on the mediums, only to be confounded by the fact that it was in the sprint. But it's turned out he's in on his mediums for the Grand Prix as well. So we'll see how that catalyses his race in the early stages. He'll be very slippery, shall we say, when he comes out the pits on a fresh set of hard tyres later on, but in the short term he could be one to watch. The 2 AlphaTauris making a habit is Luke, surging through the field early on the formation laps, so they'll take their placings, and we'll see if anyone gets disqualified from their grid spots? I don't think so. Perhaps the game will give me a good camera angle this time, or maybe it doesn't want to. It's been a trend this season throughout, Jack, that I've not received. Tope is disqualified, Archer is disqualified, that's not what Tope needed on his medium tyres. But I'm not getting good camera angles for the start line. We're looking from behind Felipe and Lifebout, but we shall see. So, for the second time today, we're going to get underway under the lights in Bahrain, and it's Ariel Felipe on pole from Lifebout and Larkin just behind them, and it looked like a clean start from all involved, and there's now Romeo almost on the grass in the background. We still haven't got a good camera angle at all towards turn 1. Let's have a look if we can get some action ahead. Lifebout's into the lead, Larkin's around the outside, fending off the medium shot Williams of Tope as they ascend up the hill, and Tope's got a great run here off on the back of Felipe. Is he going to try sling it around the outside of Larkin? I think he is, and he just almost gets caught out as Larkin tags the back of Felipe, and Tope, that gives him license to slip through into P2, and Koskapen as well goes around the outside of Felipe. Felipe is risk averse self here, and it's now Larkin versus Felipe into turn 8. Larkin's going to go around the outside. Can he pick up the traction earlier, or is it going to be Felipe on the inside? There's a Ferrari turned around. That's Ivo further down. Larkin has got the inside line, and he's up into P4, and his circumspect strategy, Jack, for Ariel Felipe, it's cost him 4 places on this lap. He's gone from 1st down to 5th.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he meant to do that to start off with. A switchback on Sweet Ross, again, just carrying on those two, having those collisions down in towards the back end of the field. But Tope already up into 2nd position from starting in 5th, if I'm not mistaken. Starting in 6th. Oh, sorry, no, it was 5th. Tope up into 2nd already, and now about to catch up to the back of Lifebout. As, oh my god, there's already a virtual safety car. So T-Bro also having a spin out of turn number 12, and as you say, Marcio having no front wing as well has caused that virtual safety car, so they'll be in at the end of this lap. But yeah, I mean, a bit of an interesting start. Koskapen up into 3rd, Larkin's up into 4th, Nolan. I don't understand what happened on that start, because I saw he got tagged ever so slightly on the back of Larkin through turn 4. Koskapen then goes around the outside of not only on Larkin, but then having the outside for turn number 6 on Nolan, and it worked out perfectly for him, because then it just meant he was able to sort of slip on by. Same with what Tope did as well. So yeah, unfortunately, I think Larkin might be gritting his teeth a little bit as we're now back under green flag racing. But Larkin will definitely be gritting his teeth a bit as to how I want to say how slow Nolan was actually going through turn number 4, because then it meant that he dropped down 2 positions from Koskapen, and so Larkin could be sitting in 2nd right now.
I think for Larkin, he's ahead of Felipe, which is really the main thing you have to think about right now. Evans has made up 5 places. He's in 13th. He is worth keeping an eye on, although he is out of the train right now, albeit only by a few hundredths of a second. Come towards turn 11 for the second time. Felipe just pulling out to spot his braking point a little bit on the back of Larkin. Tope 3/10 of a second behind Lifebout. Lifebout could be heading here because he's the lead hard runner, as indeed he is the leader of the race. That was a proper Will Buxton commentary for you there. Lifebout could be heading for a 2nd successive victory in D2. He's already won in D4 this season, has the Iraqi. He could be making it 2 for 2 in the last 2 D2 races. And we are going to get some DRS in effect in the next lap on the run towards turn 4. Tope staying nice and close to the back of that Haas, and let's have a look at what the ERS stakes are like. Tope down on 60%, 85% for Lifebout. So he's trying to keep a hold of as much of that as he can. I'm surprised that, given he's got 85%, that Tope has not been able to get past where we have had that virtual safety car. It looked like a very good run, though, for Tope out of turn 3, and he's going to breeze past that Haas, who offers no resistance on the way to turn 4. T-Brum retires in the pits, our Monaco race winner, out of the race today. But Tope takes lead on those medium tyres. He now needs to grab this race by the scruff of its neck and run away with it while he can. Koskapen is in a handy position as well off the back of this. In fact, all of our leaders are looking quite good. Chris is the one who's breaking the mould a little bit. He's 6 tenths down, as Ivo has dropped it at turn 7, as we saw Rex do last time around. He's going to come out just ahead of Evans and Rex. I think Evans is going to make the move into turn 9. And it's going to be very close between him and Rex. Rex just slips through. I think Ivo was far too generous there with the amount of space and pace he was giving the other 2 drivers. But we are on lap 3. We have got DRS, and the battle for the lead is a 5-way one, Jack.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. There's more yellow flags. That is Ivo once again out of turn number 10, having another spin. Yeah, top five, as you say, already broken that 1.3 second gap from Chris, and now it's going to be put under threat from Miami, who's only 4/10 of a second behind him. Both using the ERS for some strange reason. Miami especially. Don't understand why he's using his ERS. Needs to try and save it as much as he can for trying to get past Chris down in towards turn one. And Chris, in fact, actually almost catching back up into DRS, but Tope setting the fastest lap of the race so far, as there's been more yellows once again. Ivo through there, but here we go. Miami now down the inside of Chris, down in towards turn number one, and McLaren is now through up into 6th position. However, this is not going to be over, because Chris will then get the DRS back on Miami, but I think he might be a little bit too far behind to do anything. I think Miami got a much better run in comparison to Chris, and is now keeping that P6 position. And Kos Kappen, I thought, was also going to go for a move on Lifeboat. It says Ivo retiring into the pit lane, our second retiree of the session. But yeah, Kos Kappen, I thought he was going to go for a move on Lifeboat going through turn 4. I think just had to back out of that. And the top 5, as I said, still all running in this DRS train, and Miami is trying to do everything he can to try and get himself back within those top 5. If he can do that, at least then I would be able to drag Chris and Sen with him to make that a 5-car train to an 8-car train. So see if Miami's able to do that and catch up to the back of Nolan. Also, it would help out his teammate massively, so we'll see if that is able to go down. But I'm intrigued as to when Tope's tyre, or when we'll start to see the crossover point between those mediums and hards, because Tope, he's just absolutely driving away at the moment, setting a park with sector 2, and they're probably going to set another fastest lap from the looks of things. So yeah, I think Tope is definitely one we need to keep our eye out for towards the end of the race. He's almost jabbed that 1 second to Lifeboat.
But that is his problem, that he's still in the 1 second, and as much as he's pulled away in the middle of the lap, Lifeboat is now going to drag that back towards turn 1. If Tope can break the second, I think he's in with a good shot. But right now, I think he's find himself very short change of the tyres when he gets onto the hards later on, because you lose so much here, especially on the hard tyres on the out lap compared to what the mediums will give you. I think he's going to struggle to stay in this fight. That's my intuition. So you think he's going to be in the fight? I think he's going to struggle. We'll see who's right come the end of the race. But let's have a look on gap to leader. 1.8 seconds covers the top 5 right now. It is remarkably close between them. 5 seconds covers the top 8, and we are only on lap 5 of this race. Miami is doing a good job, considering he's got no DRS. He's not going to be quick enough, I think, to pull his way into DRS range. I think he needs a battle, some fireworks to go off ahead of him for that. But I think his pace, notwithstanding the fact he has no DRS, is actually quite good. I think he's doing a solid job. You see through the middle sector, he's pulling the time back. It's only when he slips into DRS zones like this that he loses that time to Felipe again, that he's just clawed back. But he's doing a good job. Whether he'll get that back, I'm not too sure, but he's needs to look out more for Chris behind him, I think, right now, than Felipe ahead. It has just settled down a little bit now, hasn't it? We're just going to wait for something to happen. I say that, Larkin was briefly looking very close to the back of Kos Kappen. Gap sitting at 4/10 of a second, and Felipe's weaving a little bit down the straight there. I wonder if he's got some pins and needles or something in his palms.
There's a potential. I know it can be sort of, well, you do tend to, especially if you're going through the sprint and also the 50% race as well. But there's another thing, well, it's all sort of split into 4 separate trains. I say 4, it's 3 technically. You got the top 5 all separated by under a second of each other. Miami, Chris and Sen also very close together, and then you've also got Scream, RJ and Luke all very close together as well. Luke not exactly having the best of starts, and as you say, down into P11 behind RJ. RJ doesn't even look like he's sort of threatening Scream as much. If anything, Luke's, I think, threatening him more than what RJ would be on the back of Scream. So maybe RJ needs to just keep an eye out behind him, because that AlphaTauri could look to make a sort of move on the Red Bull very soon. But yeah, I mean, Tope's tyres are still looking pretty decent shape, and yeah, as you say, in that middle sector is where he's sort of pulling it away from the rest of these guys. Unfortunately for him, though, when he gets that, or when the DRS gets enabled for both Lifeboat, or for Lifeboat and the rest of the guys behind him, it just means they can sort of drag their way back to the back of Tope. And as you saw, Tope was about 9/10 up ahead of Lifeboat, and then because of that small little DRS strip, it meant that he now drops down to, it was below 8/10, but it's now gone back up to 8/10 of a second. So yeah, I think, and the annoying thing for Tope is that whole DRS that's going on. I mean, he's trying to do everything he possibly can to break it, but I mean, he's only got 25% ERS left to his name. He could be put under pressure very soon, Jake. It's only lap 6 of 29, but I think those mediums, maybe in about 3 or 4 laps time, I think we're going to start to see that crossover point.
Yeah, I think there's a chance here for Lifebout to gap everybody else. If he gets past Tope at the right point and Koskapen can't follow him through immediately, I think Lifebout could get his way out of Koskapen's DRS range. And there's no chance of that before he gets past Tope, but certainly there's an opportunity there when the Williams does start to suffer. Although it isn't suffering too much right now. A little bit of housekeeping. Ivo said he had rear wing damage, which was why he retired from the race. As we watch Evans and Rex dice away through turn 2. Evans makes a move. He's had a very low-key event so far, and he's still suffering at the rear end of the points there, battling away for, well, just a solitary point in P12 right now, and 6 seconds off the group ahead, which is this one. Luke, RJ, and the Scream coming through turn 8. And, oh, look at Toby nearly, and he has just broken a second, briefly, for one timing interval. I wonder if there was a poor exit there for Lifebout or something coming through turn 10. Luke will be very irritated in this. I think he knows he's a lot quicker than both of those ahead of him, but can't do anything about it. And I think Larkin and Koskapen will be feeling a similar way, that they know they've got pace under them, but until this group fractures, there's nothing they can really do in terms of making some forward progress in the positional charts.
Yeah, no, certainly can't. And this battle between Evans and Rex is a bit interesting. Rex almost gone into the bank of Evans towards turn number 10, and now Rex almost losing out DRS to Evans as well. He just seems to be struggling around this track, does the American, because he was sort of just sat in front of Evans for quite some time, and now Evans as well really sort of struggling on this track. Both of them really are not enjoying their time on here. But here we go, Luke down the inside in towards turn number 1 on RJ. He finally gets that move done on the Red Bull. Luke now up into P10 behind that Scream, and now he can have a go at trying to attack the Williams in front of him. So now this might turn from Scream's train to now potentially Luke's train. Not on this lap, of course, but maybe on the next lap we may see the AlphaTauri go for a move on the Williams for that P9 position. He's 3.1 seconds behind Sen up in front of him, so Scream really does need to get a bit of a move on, but I don't think he's really got the facility to try and catch back up to those guys out in front of him. So yeah, I think if anything, Scream needs to try and defend as best as he possibly can from that AlphaTauri. He's got quite enough ERS to do that, so we'll see if he is able to. But I said it would be about lap number 10. I thought we'd start to see the crossover on those mediums. Tope is losing time to these guys behind him. I think the crossover might already be occurring here, Jake. I think Tope, he's losing out pace to these guys behind him. It's only a matter of time before Lifebout decides he wants to try and go past him.
If I'm Tope, I'm not going to pit until Lifebout gets past me. The instant I feel like Lifebout's about to pass or has just passed, that's when I come in. For now, I think as long as he's keeping this group behind him, he may as well do so if he feels he's slower than them. Bottle them up as much as he can. Speaking of pace, just had a look who's the fastest runner of the top 5. It's actually Felipe is the one with the fastest lap out of all of them. Marcia's fast lap overall, but Felipe's fastest in the top 4, albeit Larkin has just set a new PB. They are very close. They're all within a tenth and a half of each other in terms of pace. This is remarkably close, as we've just seen Luke pass the Scream into turn 1. Not too unsurprising given the pace advantage he seems to be carrying in that AlphaTauri. But look ahead, Lifebout 3 tenths behind.
Oh, Larkin.
And Larkin's had a drop there. He's had a half spin out of turn 4 through 5. He's just now got to give everything he can if he wants to stay in this race to cling to Felipe's DRS. But that's ruined Felipe as well. Felipe now out of DRS. That could be pivotal for this race, that Felipe's now lost DRS to Koskapen and Larkin has dropped out of that group as well. It's become a Lifebout versus Koskapen battle for victory, I think, in the immediate short term, and I think both of them are putting the pressure on the Williams now. That's a really pivotal lap. Felipe's going to have to use everything, Larkin everything as well, to drag themselves back into that. They need Tope to really drop off and give them a helping hand.
Yeah, no, they certainly do, and Lifebout is he's closing that gap ever so much more to the back of the Germans. So we'll see if Lifebout is able to go for the move down towards turn number 1. You can see it's about 0.4 of a second gap, and Lifebout has got the ERS to do it, but then again, Tope's also got the ERS to defend. Both still sitting pretty in, at least, well, Lifebout more so with 50%, and there we go. He's now using that ERS. He wants to get this move done now on this lap. Here we go. DRS now open for the Haas. Tope's going to try and squeeze him up towards the wall as much as he can, but Lifebout, the Iraqi, so much much quicker in a straight line and already in towards now the top spot, splitting himself and Koskappen. It's now only a matter of time before Koskappen needs to try and get this move done on Tope. Otherwise, Lifebout is pretty much going to run away with this win, but Tope is going to try and use a little bit of his ERS ever so slightly, but I think he's accepted defeat on the back of the Haas. I think this is the crossover point, the mediums on the hards. I think the hards are now definitely the quicker tyre. Nolan as well, still not able to get back within DRS of those top guys, and Nolan, you can see that red flashing light on the back of his car from Larkin's POV. I think that's just disappeared ever so slightly now, but yeah, both Larkin and Nolan were very low ERS in comparison to the whole of the top three. The whole top three are sitting quite nicely, but yeah, Larkin making that mistake. That's opened this race. Well, I'll say it's opened the race. It's kind of closed it more off for just those top three. Despite Tope having a go, well, Tope can actually pit for a set of the hards now if he wanted to. Probably won't maybe for another 1 or 2 more laps, but if he wanted to, he can pit for a set of the hards. Go for a bit of an undercut because he'll be on the much fresher hard compounder tyre, whereas these guys won't have to pit for the hards maybe until lap 14, lap 15, and then it means Tope could maybe get a bit more of a jump in comparison to those guys on the mediums. It's just only a matter of time when those guys on the mediums would catch up to Tope on the set of the hard tyres, and especially if Tope gets caught in any sort of traffic, then that's really going to hinder his race. But at the moment, Lifebout is our race leader now. Tope in second and Koskappen in third, and Koskappen still managing to stay within DRS, but at the same time needs to do anything he can to try and get past this Williams here, Jake. Otherwise I think he's just gonna, well, it means he's just gonna lose out as he makes a bit of a mistake going into turn 1.
I think as long as Tope's in DRS of Lifebout, I don't think Koskappen's in an awful situation here. He's got the gap to Felipe and to Larkin for now at least. So, you know, Tope's tyres have gone a little bit, but so long as he's keeping Koskappen in play with Lifebout, it's not an issue. If Tope suddenly has a shock of a middle sector and starts sliding everywhere, and Koskappen drops out of Lifebout's DRS range and into Felipe and Larkin's, I think that's more of a problem for him. But right now, I think he can deal with it. The trouble for Tope is that he's going to lose about 2.5 seconds on the warm-up on the hard tyre when he comes in. He's going to be really suffering. So even if he comes in early, I don't think he's really going to get an undercut on that hard tyre because it's so awful to bring it in. Which is why I think he'll just sit with Lifebout for as long as he possibly can. Because since he's been overtaken, it's not really looked like he's on the cusp of falling out of DRS range. He's not had to use any of that ERS that he's got saved up to stay with Lifebout. So he's sitting fairly pretty right now. But I think when the tyre change comes, he will suffer a little bit. Lifebout's teammate Marcio has spun at turn 7. He's dropped it probably on the curb there on the exit, and he's getting going again. But we've seen 3 people come into the pits and retire this race. He could well be a 4th because he's now 30 seconds off the back of the pack. And here comes Tope. Tope's actually using his ERS here. He's going to go back for the lead of the race. Oh, and the contact there. Tope was in 2 minds. He could decide whether to go left or right. And he ended up ploughing into the back of that Haas. And he'll say that probably the Haas moved, but actually I think that was just pure indecision from Tope. He didn't know which way to go because Lifebout had parked in the middle of the track. Here we go now towards turn 4. Is Tope going to have a go? No, he's not. He's going to sit behind. But that could have been... Oh, Felipe and Larkin would have been buzzing for an overtake there, but it didn't come. But they are 1.2 behind. But I think Tope... I don't know how it looked to you, but I just like Tope couldn't make his mind up which way to go.
Yeah, I was really surprised about that. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was going for the move and then just... Well,
he just kept driving.
I don't know if he actually did. Yeah, it definitely... that was a very strange one, I've got to say. But I've got to give props to Nolan. He's called back out into DRS of those guys in the top 3. He's now managed to claw that 1 second back. Of course, when it was split between himself and Larkin, unfortunately for Larkin now, I think it means he's just going to have to concede the place from Nolan and just going to have to stay that way. Although, saying that, Nolan's still on the cusp of losing outside of DRS. I think Larkin's only saving grace is if he goes for an undercut on the AlphaTauri to try and get the jump on him as early as possible. But then again, we know Nolan does love a bit of an undercut as well. So I don't know. It's going to be a tight situation as to when these pit stops are going to start. But surely Tope has got to be coming in this lap. No, in fact he stays out. So Tope still going to be staying out. It's going to be costing Koskappen time. No pun intended, really. But it's going to be costing Koskappen a little bit of time. Only because now, with Tope starting to slow down ever so slightly, as Lucas Archie, our first pitter on a set of the hard tyres, with, of course, Tope staying out, it means that his tyres are still going to grade even more. Koskappen's then going to lose out time, especially in that middle sector, which means that he could lose DRS to Lifeboat out in front if Tope doesn't manage to keep through the back of the Haas, and then could also put him vulnerable to the two that are behind him, with both Nolan and Larkin as well. So yeah, I think if anything, Koskapper now needs to try and go for a move on Tope where he possibly can to try and stay within that 1 second of Lifeboat, because if you look now, the gap to leader, it's literally teetering on the edge of 1 second. In fact, I think he was actually just about out of it. It was literally, as I said, teetering on that 1 second edge. So yeah, Koskapper needs to try and find any sort of move he can onto the back of Tope. Unless Tope hits this lap, then he's just going to cause more of a hindrance to the Red Bull in front of him. And as I say, Nolan now is back within DRS of these guys out in front.
Yeah, I think Tope has become a hindrance now. This lap, his cars looked very tired. He didn't want to turn into turn 8 at all. The fronts just weren't gripping up, and he's now really on the edge of staying within a second of Lifebout. And it's brought Felipe into play beautifully. I wonder, are we going to see Larkin, Felipe, either of them going to pit this lap? I think we've seen Luke as a hard runner come in. I wanted one of them to go for it. I wanted one to go through a gutsy early pits for the medium tyres. They're all staying well away from it for now, but surely this lap they've all got to come in, because you can pit. You could have pit from lap 13 and go to the end. You would have been running on thin rubber by the end, but at this point I feel like you've got to, if you're in Larkin's position, you're in Felipe's position, the gains are too big to ignore if you make a pit stop a lap earlier. Oh, and a moment for Koskapper on the exit of turn 4, and Felipe's through, and Larkin's through as well, is he? Side by side down the hill, Larkin finesses his way through there. He takes P3. That was a big mistake from the Red Bull, Jack. And you mentioned about him staying in Lifebout's DRS. Well, it wasn't Tope that cost him in the end. It was his own mistake.
Yeah, things that you really do truly hate to see. Unfortunately for Ben JS, it's meaning that he's now down in 4th, and where he was sitting in 2nd. This is now pretty much opened it up for Lifebout to take the win for this evening. But Nolan now, he did it once. Are we going to see him do it again through these pit stops? If Lifebout doesn't pit and Nolan pits, then Nolan's got a good opportunity of getting an undercut onto the back of Lifebout. But we'll see. We're coming up towards the end of Sector 3 now, and it's whether Lifebout is going to opt to go for the pits now, or if he's going to stay out another lap. If Lifebout pits, then he's got a very good opportunity of winning this race. Let's have a look and see. I'm right on board with Nolan. Lifebout doesn't pit, so Nolan is going to come into the pits. He's obviously listening to the stream, which is fine. So Nolan's in. Larkin and Koskapper both stay out. Nolan, this is his opportunity. If he can drive away as much as possible when he comes out of the pits, as long as he doesn't get caught behind that little 4 stack that's just coming up to the final corner now, then I think Nolan's got a very, very good opportunity of taking this race win for this evening, especially going for this undercut on Lifebout and on Larkin as well, because Larkin, of course, was just sitting pretty behind him for quite some time.
Look at Tope. Tope's going to come out very close to the back of Felipe. If Felipe's going to have cold tyres, he's going to go very deep into turn 1. Tope can cut back underneath him. Nolan's going to be in a very tricky spot here towards turn 4, because he's got Evans Joshua on the back of him as well. The medium tyres don't want to grip up yet. They've not got the temperature in. They will come with him in a sec. But Tope is going to have a chance here, a golden opportunity to go round the outside. He needs to make this move while he can. He cuts back underneath Felipe. That was elegantly, beautifully done from the German. He's going to suffer later on with those hard tyres, but he's made the move he needed to make, Jack. And he's up into P8, and that could be costly time-wise for, when Larkin comes in. Larkin's going to come out behind them as well. That could really gift things to Lifebout if he's got Larkin and Koskapper and Felipe all stuck behind Tope.
Yeah, no, it certainly will do. So Lifebout now needs to also get a bit of a move on, because especially if Tope is also doing that on those fresher hards, he could be vulnerable from Tope as well. Because don't forget, Tope was, just sitting pretty behind Lifebout for quite some time. Of course, Tope is obviously going to be on a set of the hards, whereas the rest of these guys will be on mediums. And I think we're going to start to see some pit stops occur out now. The top 2 still aren't coming in, but Ben JS is coming in. Miami also following suit. Chris is staying out. Is Scream also coming in? Scream is coming in. So Scream also making his way in. There's a lot of mixed strategies going on, but Koskapper is, of course, going to try and see if he can get this overcut on Nolan. Of course, Nolan, he is still within DRS of Tope for the time being. So let's have a look. Koskapper is just making his way out of the pit lane now. He will be able to disable the limiter right about now. I think he's gotten the jump on the pair of them from the looks of things. Yeah, you can see he's just coming out of the exit of the pit lane. Felipe's going to go down the inside of Tope in towards turn number 1. Can break so much later. Screamers lagged out of the session, unfortunately. One Williams is not having a very good day. The other one is trying to fight for a net position. Nolan hasn't got any DRS. Tope does, but unfortunately for Tope, he couldn't get the traction out of turn number 2, and Nolan's now back up in front of him, but Koskappen has managed to stay up ahead of the AlphaTauri. So Ben is actually our net race leader for the time being here, Jake, and this is making this a bit more interesting, as another thing also occurring, Lifebout is losing time to Larkin. Larkin has been putting a bit of a shift on. He was about 2 seconds behind him about 2 laps ago. He's now only 1 second behind.
And here goes Felipe up the inside of Koskappen into turn 10. And contact between them on the exit as well. And just a little bit out of shape for the AlphaTauri. I wonder, I wonder if Felipe was just felt like he could see the race win right there, and he thought, that's my opportunity when the tyres are still cold. He's made it stick, but Larkin and Lifebout into the pits. Meanwhile, he's made it stick, but he's got no ERS. Ben JS has a little to play with. Evans picks up a 3-second penalty, but he knew he was going to lose too much time to Lifebout and Larkin. I think that he's just looking at the big picture ahead there, and Felipe, and for once he just thought, you know what, sod it, I'm going for that. I need to make that move. And where are they going to come out in relation to the leaders? Felipe's had a couple of battles there to deal with, to negotiate with Koskappen and Tope to get his way up into a net lead of this race, potentially, and he's going to come out behind the pair of them as Koskappen's going to go around the outside here into turn 1. Felipe's going to take the tighter line, has to go a little bit deep, cuts back underneath, does Ben Jess. He's going to have a much better run through 3 and up the hill towards 4, and Felipe has no DRS or ERS to play with whatsoever. Koskappen's going to make this move, and he's back ahead, and all of that beautiful, excellent, aggressive driving for Felipe into turn 10 last lap, all in vain, because Koskappen back into P3. But we have got our 5-way battle for victory once again, but it's now Lifebout, Larkin, Koskappen. Felipe's down to 4th, and Tope from the lead down to 5th.
Certainly, as Luke and Chris is also side by side now through turn number 7, 8, and Chris is now, unfortunately, he was side by side with Sen for quite some time. He's now lost that position to him as Koskappen and Larkin both side by side. Larkin now, unfortunately, losing out another position to Ben JS now as well. So Ben is making so many gains on his time as well, as Larkin didn't get the DRS on the back of Lifebout through turn number 10. So it meant that Ben manages to just slip on past him, especially considering that Larkin is still on the relatively colder tyres, and it should be heating up by now as we're in the final sector of the track. So yeah, unfortunately for Larkin, it just meant that Ben had that DRS and could just sort of sneak on past, and also Ben has gotten the DRS to the back of Lifebout. So yeah, Lifebout now could be coming under pressure from those guys behind him, because Ben's managed to drag him back in, and that fastest lap of the race kind of just proves that Ben is rapid at the moment, and unfortunately he's got no ERS to try and maybe go for a move on Lifebout, whereas Lifebout's still sitting nice and pretty on 46%. So yeah, Ben's got to try and save a bit of this ERS that he's gotten if he wants to go for any sort of move soon, as Larkin's in fact using that ERS, maybe looking for it down towards turn number 4. He thinks better of it and has to bide his time for the time being. But yeah, Ben almost losing out on 1 second to Lifebout already. Those medium tyres now for Lifebout and Larkin are definitely coming into play for the pair of them at the moment, Jake. And also Tope, unfortunately, has now lost out DRS to those top 4. So what was a 5-way battle is now turned to a 4-way battle for this lead of the race, because Miami is now also catching him.
Yeah, those hard tyres of Tope not working out in the second part of this race. I wonder, did Larkin make a little mistake? Is that the exit of turn 10 on traction, or was it just the lack of DRS that did him? Or did you see if he just lost traction a little bit? Because it's a strange place to lose a place. You don't see many overtakes between 10 and 11. Did you see anything there?
I didn't quite actually see what happened, but I mean, you say nothing between 10 and 11. Luke's actually just made the move on Sen between 10 and 11 as well.
That
so
shows
Luke
me.
is now up into P7 as well, 1.5 seconds behind Miami, and Luke is actually looking like he is on some very good pace at the moment. I think he's got the ability to try and catch up to Miami. It's one thing to catch up, it's another thing to try and pass them, so we'll see if Luke's able to get the job done. But yeah, he's now just dragging Sen and Chris on his own, see if he's able to defend from them.
Well, I just had a look at the standings where Ben JS stands. He's on 64 points right now, 35 points behind Felipe before the sprint. So that will be a little bigger now. But we've had 7 different winners in the first 7 races this season. Something we've not actually mentioned. Alex the G, Ariel Felipe, ERT Larkin, Evans Joshua, Ariel Tebrum, QVR, Koskap and Lifebout, we are heading for our first repeat winner of the season, but it could be any of 4 right now, and that's why we love D2, isn't it, J. Cole? Absolutely anyone could win this race, and I wouldn't put it past Felipe, currently sitting in P4, and we've got Sen and Chris, and Luke has made a big clanger. He's dropped the car coming through 6 into 7, and up ahead of him, look at this between Chris and Sen, although Chris out with a big wobble out of turn 8, and they continue as you were, but Koskappen within 4/10 of Lifebout, he's getting closer and he's sniffing that race lead, Jack.
Yeah, he certainly is. I'll tell you what, though, that fit between Sen and Luke. So Sen dove it up the inside into turn 1 on Luke. Luke gave him that space on the inside, which is fair play for him. Sen was going for the move on the outside of turn number 4, and I think got squeezed out by Luke on the exit of it. Sen then picked up a penalty as he's come back on track. He's alongside of Luke going through turns 5 and 6. And through turn number 5, I think Luke got a little bit understeery through there, and unfortunately Luke went around after that, which meant that Chris also got the place off of the back of the Aston Martin, but Sen picked up a penalty in the process. But Ben JS now so close to the back of the Haas. I thought we were going to see that orange down in towards turn number 1, but thinks better of it for the time being. He has got the better run though coming out of turn number 2. I think we might see this here, Jake. This might be the move for the race lead. He's going to maybe go down the inside in towards turn number 4. He's looking at this move. Lifeout's going to try and hold it around the outside. Ben doesn't really commit to it. He just half-asses it, and unfortunately means that he's going to stay down in second, but it's now brought Larkin into play with going for this move for the race lead. It means that not only is Lifeout going to be under pressure from Ben, he's going to be under pressure from Larkin, he's going to be under pressure from Nolan as well, and as you say, yeah, I think Lifebout really needs to try and, well, he's got that ERS to try and utilise to stay up ahead of those guys behind him. He's been building it up pretty much all race, and it's going to work out for him in the end with that. It's just whether he's going to be able to try and overtake / defend from those rest of the guys behind him, because even if 2 of them pass him, he's then really in trouble of trying to secure this race win with that ERS that he's gotten. So he needs to try and maybe utilise a bit more of this ERS that he's got to play with if he wants to try and win this race and become our second race, or become our first 2-peat race winner for this season. But another one that's also just sort of very close to each other are both Chris and Sen, still relatively following each other, just coming up towards the final corner as well. See if Chris is able to maybe go for a move, but this battle for the race lead is where it's heating up here. It
absolutely is. I'll tell you what, I feel like the last lap is just going to wipe out what I'm about to say, but Felipe looked like he was struggling for a little. He was around 8/10 behind Larkin for a brief interlude. And then he was on the least ERS as well. He's on 6%. He still is on the one on the least ERS. He's on 8% for him now, 6% for Koskappen. Koskappen's going for it now, down the outside of Lifebout into turn 4. Got a beautiful helicam shot here. Lifebout concedes the place. He probably knows he's got more ERS. He'll see that red light blinking away now. He's on 49%. Lifebout still looking in a very pretty position right now. Koskappen takes the lead, but I think we could see it yo-yo a couple of times. Yeah, Felipe getting very close, checking out the back of that McLaren. Let's diffuser through the hairpin of turn 8, and then we zigzag back to the hairpin of turn 10. And tell you what, Koskappen's had a very good middle sector there. He's pulled out half a second, 6/10 of a second even, on Lifebout, who had a bit of a shoddy exit coming from turn 10. And Larkin will be wanting Lifebout to stay with Koskappen as much as he can. I think the best chance Larkin's got of something happening in terms of a race victory, at least, is Koskappen and Lifebout coming to blows. So I think he'll want that Haas to stay nice and close to Koskappen, and also for some nice DRS to protect himself from the advances of Ariel Felipe behind. Although, at this point in the season, nearly halfway through, Jack, I don't think a 3-point swing between 3rd and 4th is really good enough for Larkin at this point.
No, he definitely needs to try and get up to the lead of this race, and at the moment it's not sort of working out for him, especially with Lifebout in front of him with, well, pretty much double the ERS that Larkin has gotten. Yeah, Ben's still doing a pretty decent job of just sort of sitting in at the front of the grid so far, but yeah, you've got to think towards the end of this race, Lifebout really is going to be in trouble as Chris gets the move done on Sen, now down in towards turn number 1. Chris now up into 7th position, Sen now down into 8th. Of course, with both, with Sen having that penalty as well, it really means that Chris is basically going to beat him. Although saying that, Sen is just hitting the back of the Alpine, which is very strange. I don't know what Sen was doing there, but he was just constantly hitting the back of him. So I don't know if he was trying to bump draft him or what, but that definitely didn't look like that was working out for him. And it did work out for him because he got back in front of him, but That was very strange to say the least from the Aston Martin. But yeah, those top four still very, very close to each other. Miami still closing up to the back of Tope. It's now 1.3 seconds, and I think Miami needs to get a little bit more of a move on, because those mediums will start to go off maybe around lap 26, lap 27. And he's been closing up, I would say, maybe just under a tenth of a second, maybe about a tenth of a second each lap on average. So yeah, I think Miami needs to get a bit more of a move on if he wants a chance of being able to get within DRS of Tope, and then maybe looking for an opportunity to get himself up in the top 5. Yeah, we'll see if Miami is able to do that. Yeah, there's not really much else that's going out on track. Both Rex and Sui Ross are battling for that final points position as well, so could be a little bit of an interesting one to keep bar out for at the end. But yeah, those top 4 and 7th and 8th are the ones that are really going at it here.
Yeah, cost cap are down 5% ERS. Lifeboat has more than 10 times that right now. I think when Lifeboat decides to go for it, he will go for it and he will take the lead of the race. But he's got to keep within, I would say, a half-second window of cost captain to make that move effective. That he's not going to use up all of his ERS in order to do it. Chris gets past Sen, gets a little out of shape through 2 and 3 compromise line. He loses pace up the hill towards turn 4. Sen's going to go around the outsides. We've got a yellow flag for Marcio, and they're going to be barging wheels through 4, and then the little kink of 5 as we come down towards turn 6. Neither wants to concede this place. I think it's Sen who's got the inside for 7, and he is ahead. Can we get a good camera angle, please? And Sen is ahead. Chris is not going to fancy the lunge up the inside of 8. He settles for P8 right now. And Lifeboat, again, through those twisty corners, he's dropping time to cost cap. Only a tenth or so, but it's enough that it's an irritation for him that he can't be where he wants to be coming on the pit straight. I think he wants to be within 4 tenths of cost cap, and by the time we come through turn 15, that is not the case for Lifeboat. I think he is the slowest of these guys right now when it comes to outright pace. In a vacuum, as my esteemed colleague Old School 3000 would say. But he's half a second now, 4 tenths. Is that a poor exit for cost cap? Maybe poor line through there? And no, he just got a very good exit with some ERS, and this is frustrating, I think, for all involved about just when do you make your move. Lifeboat doesn't want to make his move yet. He's still happy hoarding some of that ERS, although Benjes looked like he got a little tight through turn 1 there, but we're clutching at straws here, I think, a little bit in the short term at least. With 6 laps to go, Lifeboat doesn't want to make that move anytime soon.
Yeah, no, he certainly doesn't. And yeah, I think it's just how it's going to run for the time being. But that's this battle for P7. Sen, Chris, and now Luke has also joined the fray once again. Of course, Sen and Luke, as I say earlier, had that small little, or had the tap between each other. Meant that Luke dropped down behind Sen as Rex and Sweet Ross both side by side for turn 1 and turn 2. Rex had the inside for turn 2. Sweet Ross had the outside. It means that he's now got a DRS for this final points position. The American, I think, is going to be able to hold on up ahead of the Alpine for the time being. So Rex, yeah, managing to hold on, but Sweet Ross looking a lot more attacking to the back of the Alfa Romeo for the time being. But yeah, this battle's still for P7. Chris, Luke, of course Chris is the only one out of these 3 without a penalty, and it means that RJ is actually going to get the jump on Luke, and he could potentially get the jump on Sen if these guys keep on battling the way that they are at the moment. So I think really Sen needs to try and work with Chris as much as possible to get away from RJ. I know Chris will jump him anyway unless Chris ends up spinning himself, but yeah, I think, Sen needs to try and work with Chris and Luke as much as possible to get away from the Red Bull behind them, because otherwise they're both going to lose out of position to RJ, and RJ could end up looking like he could finish in 8th for this evening. Still up to the front of the grid though. Lifeboat still cannot find a way past cost capping for the time being, and Chris, I'm going to see if he goes to this move on Sen down into turn 1. I think he's just going to hang back for the time being. Maybe down towards turn 4 though. Maybe a different story is almost going into the bank of the Aston Martin. He's going to have the worst run out of the 2, and yeah, Chris unfortunately not going to be close enough to going for any sort of move. So yeah, there's not much that's sort of going on at the moment, Jay. It's just still all DRS trains, but close towards the final lap, I think lap 28, we're going to start to see some moves go down. There's still this battle going on for the back, or for the final points positions.
Miami is now within DRS. You mentioned he was getting close. He is in DRS on the back of Tope, and has he left himself enough tyre life to make that move? As I say that, you mentioned Sweet Ross and Rex are battling away. We've got a yellow flag. That was very disappointed. That sounded like that someone or some people had just have some shoddy driving at hand. Lifeboat, though, we'll check in with what happened there in a second, because look at Lifeboat, Jack. He's within half a second. He's as close as he's been now, coming towards the last corner. The gap's at 0.4, and we'll have seen that red light blinking eternally on the back of the Red Bull. Is this now his moment? No, he's still waiting for a later opportunity to come his way.
I don't understand why he's doing that, to be honest with you. He needs to he could use a bit of his DRS, I suppose, maybe for defensive driving on the final lap. So maybe lap number 28 is where we're going to see the Iraqi go for the move on the Red Bull. But he just seems to be losing certain time at certain parts of the track, excuse me, which means that he's then not going to be able to catch up to the back of the Red Bull, despite, of course, Ben's red light flashing on the back of his car, and you can see that it's already gone well past Christmas. So he's still feeling in the festive spirit at the moment. But yeah, Ben really needs to try and pull off a bit more of a gap to the back of Lifeboat. But then again, Lifeboat also needs to try and keep up with the back of Ben, because there's times like that through turn 10 he got very wide out of it. He's lost 2.5 temps. He's now using a bit of his ERS to catch back up to the back of the Red Bull. Nolan as well, closing up to the back of the McLaren. I think those two are going to start scrapping it out very soon behind the back of Lifeboat, because both of them will have DRS, so they can both just sort of scrap away as much as they want, because I think they're getting a little bit impatient now behind the back of the Haas. Marcio picking up a 3-second time penalty. I think he's in fact actually just sitting behind this top 4 as well, which makes it look like it's a 5-car train. But yeah, he needs to try and you probably use a bit more of his ERS now. It's lap 26 to 29. We're going to have 3 more laps left to go once they cross the line here. Yeah, Lifeboat needs to do something. I think he might. We've seen this before. He might play this a bit too late, and I don't think he could take the win if he plays it too late. I think lap 28 is where we're going to see Lifeboat needing to do something.
It's like when you do see in football, those penalties where you just calmly stroke it into the corner. It looks fabulous when it comes off. When it doesn't, you look like a bit of a mug. And Lifeboat, will he look like a genius here with this softly, gently approach to this race, or will he look like a bit of a mug? We'll see in 2.5 laps time. Do stay with us in Division 2 here, as he goes a little bit deep through turn 6. That'll compromise his line for 7 and the run towards 8 as well. I think you're right that lap 28 is where he's going to try chance his arm into turn 1. He knows, he just briefly flicked on the ERS there out of turn 8. He's being so frugal with his energy usage there, and last lap through turn 10 he did go a little bit deep, and I think Larkin followed him, which is what caused the Felipe to have a whiff of a look at the back of that McLaren, is that Larkin just followed Lifeboat deep through that corner. But now we've got just over 2 laps to go, and Lifeboat is within the half a second, the magic half a second or so, as we come through turn 13, and then they'll rise over the crest and then down again towards the hill, and Lifebout is starting to use now. He's setting himself up for the overtake. He put a little bit on out of 13. I'm sure we'll see it on in force out of 14 and through 15 here. Yes, he is. He's going for it, Jack. He's going for it. Here we go. Lifebout with some ERS and some DRS to boot down towards turn 1. Ben JS comes to the middle of the track. Lifebout takes to the outside, and look at the overspeed the Haas has got there. Pulls out, picks his braking point beautifully, and stays ahead of the Red Bull. And although it looks like Ben Jess has got a better run up the hill here, he's going to have DRS, but Lifebout can defend with his limitless energy reserves in comparison to those behind him. Just over a lap and a half to go. Lifebout might have played a blinder, but we'll see. Koskappen's still got a chance to find him back yet.
Yeah, he certainly does. He's still got at least a lap and a half left to go. 3 more DRS straights to go. 4 more DRS straights to go, shall I say, because there's one here as well as Marcio that is having a spin behind the top 5 on those soft compounder tyres. So the Portuguese not having the best of races, now being lapped by both Tope and Miami. Miami's still not able to find a move on the back of the Williams, and still Sen and Chris and Luke very close with each other. They're not working together whatsoever, and it's meaning that both Sen and Luke are going to lose this position to RJ's. In fact, Luke going down the inside in towards turn 10 on Chris. I didn't even managed to spot that and just saw it in Chris's POV, and Luke is now up into 8th actual position. It's just who's going to be able to get the jump on who. Is Sen going to be able to stay up ahead of Luke, or is Luke going to be able to go for the jump? They're both very low on ERS, and we're now coming on to the final lap of this race. All are going to be using their ERS in this top 4. Nolan, though, is absolutely nowhere near these top 3, so it's just the top 3 that are left to be able to see who's going to win this race. At the moment, Lifebout, he's doing very well in order to stay up ahead. He's got 2 more DRS zones to try and defend from both Koskappen and Larkin behind him, and I think he has done this, as you say, to perfection. When you were saying about the penalty kicks, whether it was softly done and makes himself look like a mug or not, he definitely has not made himself look like a mug, because he's managed to hold on to this race lead. But this battle for 7th is really steaming up. Luke and Sen both with each other. Luke having the DRS now open up ahead of Sen. Sen's going to try and dive it down the inside towards turn number 4. Very, very forceful move from the Aston Martin, and Luke now drops down into 9th position. Both of those two have been absolutely scrapping away constantly with in this entire race, and unfortunately now Luke is now back behind Chris. So that move that he'd done down towards turn 10 is now going to be null and void. And yeah, unfortunately for him, I think Luke is going to finish. The best he's going to finish is now in P10, and same with Sen in P9. As Sen, in fact, as I say that, has actually spun around. So now that's put him out of contention for that P7. And I think Lifebout is looking like he's going to win this. He's only got 2 more corners left to go here, Jake.
He has. He did play it very well in the end. He's going to end with only 2 or 1% of ERS, but he did everything he needed to do. He's going to take back-to-back victories in Division 2 in League of Europe. Lifebout wins the Bahrain Grand Prix from QVR Koskappen in P2, Larkin in P3. Nolan comes home in 4th, and then it's going to be Tope does fend off Miami for P5. Luke is going to be beaten on penalties, pipped to the post by Chris and RJ for P7 and 8. Luke will take 9th. Sen, with that last lap spin, is going to come into the pits and take 10th, or will he retire before he even gets to the line? No, he does cross the line. Scream takes 11th. Sweet Ross is going to be 12th. Rex 13th and Marcio 14th. Lifebout, he left it late, didn't he? But he made it a very, very well worked and finessed victory, shall we say.
Yeah, no, he certainly did, and I think that was well deserved as well. So yeah, well done to him for certain. Luke saying it's an in-game driver of the day, but I would definitely say I think it'll probably go to Lifebout. The strategy that he did was, well, he played that to perfection, and yeah, I think even the Division 2 drivers are all praising him for that. As I say, he played that to perfection. He's trying to throw his hat into this championship battle as well. He's he's put himself up, I think, up ahead of Tope in terms of the standings now. Not obviously up ahead of Koskappen, but he's definitely in the top 6. And we're reached now the halfway point of the season. There are 17 races, and we have now completed 8 of those. So yeah, I think halfway point of the season here, Jake. Lifebout is now starting to come into his own. Obviously, promoted from Division 4 in round number 2, and taking the second race win of the season. And as I say, the first person in Division 2 to at least win 2 races in this season as well. I'll quickly just run you through the rest of the order for the feature race. As I say, Koskappen finished 2nd, Larkin in 3rd, Nolan in 4th, Tope in 5th, Miami in 6th, Chris in 7th, RJ in 8th, Luke in 9th, Sen rounding out the top 10, Scream in 11th, Sween Ross taking the final points position in the feature race in 12th, Rex in 13th, Marcio in 14th with the fastest lap, Evans, Switchback, Ivo, T-Brum or DNFing in the feature race as well. But yeah, Lifebout, I can't. That's all I can really say. He deserves that race win. That's all there really is to it.
And that is all there is to it. I mean, just quickly, I've been distracted there by the Division 2 chat in the Discord. Felipe throwing shots, or firing shots rather, at ERT Larkin for lap 1, turns 1 and 2. We saw it, how it pinched up there. I think Felipe unhappy with Larkin's driving, although Larkin criticising Felipe for accelerating slowly, and he said he was. Tyres are cold, it's lap 1, I'm just being safe. So giving credit to our theory. Well, it's not a theory, we know it to be the case, but Felipe is being very, very cautious in the races. And I think he came out with probably the result that matched his pace, so I don't think he'll be too unhappy with that. He only lost 3 points to Larkin in the end and will have gained on Evans, although Koskap and Lifebout are really bringing themselves into the picture now. I think the championship picture is changing in terms of who's up there with Felipe and Larkin, but it looks like it's going to be those two. And then whether it's Lifebout, whether it's Koskapen, whether it's Luco 5HD with a late surge, whether it's T-Brum with a late surge if he can get some results together, or whether it's Evans, I think we're going to have at least a 3 or 4 way fight ahead of us. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And at the moment, though, it is a 2-horse race between Nolan and Larkin. Of course, Nolan still, I think, to be about 26 points up ahead of Larkin. So he has got a race win plus fastest lap to the gap of the McLaren. But it won't surprise me if there may be a stewards report coming in towards for Division 2 with, of course, Nolan and Larkin, especially with what Nolan was saying in there. So, yeah, I think it's definitely going to start to kick off. It's definitely picking up now in this season. I say halfway through the season already for, throughout the whole of the League of Europe, which is, it's gone very quick. 8 weeks already, Jake. In fact, 9 weeks, because we've already had a break week as well. Break week is a bit later on in this season. So already 8 weeks we've been in to the League of Europe. And, leading at the halfway point is good old Ariel Felipe, but Larkin is he's starting to pick it up a bit more.
He is, but with Felipe, he is doing what he needs to do. But that is a 6th race in a row without a podium finish for him. But 5 of those races he's finished 4th or 5th, so he's doing as well as he can do without really being particularly outstanding. So I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. Imola is up next, and then Portugal comes thereafter with Mexico, Singapore, Austria, and Netherlands, and then the last 3 races: Saudi Arabia, Belgium, and Brazil, returning to its classic League of Europe finale slot. Tune in next week for more of the same. As I said, at Imola, not a sprint race next time round, and you can enjoy me failing to finish again in D1. You can enjoy Ariel and J. Cole battling away with Rocco Reggie for real, under the sweet tones of James Head 14 and Old School 3000. That's at 6:30. Also alongside that, Jess Gamer and Evil Dragon in Division 3 commentary box. And then same time as us next week, 8:10, myself and J. Cole will be back and thoroughly depressed from a thrashing at Imola in D1. I probably won't have finished for some more D2 action, and then we'll have QVR messes Verstappen and Packer over in D4. So pick your poison, and we'll see you there. Until then, thank you for tuning in, and goodbye.